Hey guys, and welcome back to Betwixt the Books. We are here with our second reading roundtable for the month. This is an open circulation. Essentially, anybody can bring whatever they've been reading recently, so we have no idea what's going to show up. If you haven't seen one of these before, we bring on some of our bookish friends to talk about the things that they've been reading. Sometimes there's themed, like there was earlier this month when we read books that had been banned or challenged. So if you want to go see that video, please feel free to. That was a fun one. Sometimes they're open circulation, like this one, and we just get to hear about new things that maybe we haven't heard of before. It's always a good time. We will go around and tell you a little bit about ourselves and who we are as readers to start, and then go around a second time to talk about all of our books. That way you have an idea whether the person who's talking about a book maybe aligns with you as a reader a little bit first. And as always, we start with the lovely Gretchen.
So, hi, I'm Gretchen. And those who have been following my individual videos lately will be aware that I've been struggling. I have been dealing with my mental health and just being generally busy. And so, as someone who normally reads 300 books a year, and it's not hard, I'm struggling to read a book. This is a deeply uncomfortable position for me to be in. What I read a lot of romance usually on the channel. And then I also have things like my history feature where I read usually American political science and history books. Like I just released a new installment of that series recently, in which I talked about a whole bunch of history books that talked about why words matter in history and the history of words matter in specifically the American history context. But in my struggles to read literally anything, and I mean, we're talking like literally, I can't read a romance novel. And like some of those are like your baseline for like easy nonsense. For this reading roundtable, am bringing back a type of book that was a subject that is one of my early loves, and I just decided that I would shake off everything that was normal, no American history, no romance fiction, and I would just try to like get back in the swing of things. It is history, but it's not American, and I am excited to tell you about it.
Well, either I read 5 books in like 3 days, or I don't touch a book for 2 months. Really depends. I'm reading Alchemist right now, but I haven't finished it. I was gonna talk about it for this, but I didn't finish it, so I'm not doing that. That one is super intense. Um, but I usually read fantasy, or I've been on a horror kick lately, so that's been super fun. Um, I work at a prison, so it's hard to phase me. And I like when a book phases me. So far, none have this year, but I'd like to let them try. Oh, and there was Frankie, if you saw her. If you saw a little golden tail, Frankie is my 7-month-old kitten. She's a monster.
Hello, I'm Taylor. I I'm a children's librarian, and I do try to read in that space a lot. I've been going through some manga from the YA kind of collection recently, but my reading tastes, I really like to bounce around a lot. Um, Fantasy, short fiction, and definitely, I guess, what falls into literary fiction all appeal to me. And, um, while I definitely kind of have been dancing around, I've got a nice horror book for this season to talk about, so can't wait.
Uh, I'm always a fan of hearing about people talk about horror books. If you don't recognize me, hi, I'm Michaela. I'm the other half of this channel. You should recognize me. I'm in and out of here all the time. I live in horror. Horror is my general home. That's most of what I read when I get to pick what I'm reading. I most recently just did a video where I read a bunch of the, like, quote unquote, best horror books from last year, looking at the Goodreads Choice Awards, and I'm in the middle of another half of that where I read a bunch of women who wrote books that were in the same category. So, I'm not going to talk about any of the things that I've been reading recently this time. I'm picking up one that I technically read last month to tell you about because I didn't talk about it on the channel yet, and it's a new horror book that I think will be interesting to talk about. It might show up on this year's Goodreads Choice Awards, possibly, because I think that it has a little bit of popularity behind it. So, we'll see.
I like how this unthemed chaos became, everybody but Gretchen brought a spooky book for October. Really appreciate how the three of you have set this up behind my back.
You live in a society, Gretchen. You are not immune to the same currents that shape our choices.
It is October.
So mine isn't technically horror. It's technically magical realism.
Which,
But,
to me, when I read it, is quite like horror.
I mean,
But,
that's
like,
kind of
gothic
a
magical
mode
realism.
rather than a genre.
Yes, both Taylor and Michaela have been on this channel when we've tried to read magical realism, and I react very similarly when we read horror, which is, I don't like it. Anyway.
That's fair.
It
It's
is
the
one
same.
of the one of the many ways to get a tantrum out of Gretchen.
Listen, I don't like what I don't like. So speaking of which, I'm going to talk about something that I like, and none of you can stop me because this is my time now. Okay.
It's true. It's your time.
It's my time. Okay. So, again, if you have been following the channel recently, what I have been reading lately for review on the channel has not been good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Michaela had us reading our feminist text Michaela chose, and it was, to be very clear, I was aware when I started it that it was like literary horror feminist Bluebeard retelling called Sour Cherry. So I knew that, and I agreed to that going in. It was written very poorly.
You had a really interesting discussion about it, the two of you. I liked that video.
It was. It's a really, I think that's what I said to Michaela before we started filming. I was like, at the very least, this is going to be a great video. And it's actually one of our best performing videos this year, weirdly. But in terms of enjoying reading, that doesn't help. And then for our banned books reading roundtable, I thought, I'll read some young adult fantasy because this is one of my first true love in reading. The tantrum I threw talking about that book that Michaela made into a short is one of our best performing shorts of all time because I lost my ding-dang mind.
I don't know why. Normally, one can rely on YA fantasy to deliver book after book.
Listen,
no
as
flat
someone who has
experiences.
consumed a lot of YA fantasy, that was a whole extra level.
It was taken down on TikTok. We're not allowed to talk about it on TikTok.
Yeah, I broke the TikTok
censored?
community
We
guidelines.
were censored. It got community guideline violated.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
oh my God.
because I have
were there
been
personal call-outs, Gretchen?
No.
Yeah, I know.
No.
No threats against the author?
No.
Amazing. I'm so glad this time.
So anyway, I've been trying to I just want to pet the cat. I've been trying to, like I said, shake up my reading, try to get into a palate cleanser. So I decided to read about a historical figure who was beheaded. Because that be how it be. So the book that I'm not going to talk about it a ton just because, unless, spoiler alert, you didn't know about Henry and his 8 wives and what happened to them all. There's a fairly famous rhyme about it. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Anyway, the book that I read is Hunting the Falcon, Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn, and the Marriage That Shook Europe by John Guy and Julia Fox. So for those who don't know, because I don't talk about it all that much on the channel anymore, my first love was world history. That's really where I started when I was in grade school, middle school, high school. I read and wrote essentially, I guess, fan fiction from the point of view. I have short stories from the point of view of all 6 of Henry's wives that I wrote in high school. I can still recite a list of Egyptian pharaohs and their wives. You want to ask me about Akhenaten and Nefertiti? I'm here. Like, I went through a Russia phase. Actually, my review of a biography on Catherine the Great is one of our top 10 videos on this channel somehow. It is unclear to me how that happened. So
She won't stop bragging.
I don't know, because I have talked to Michaela about this multiple times. I don't understand that.
We understand why the 5 love triangles that don't suck is a popular video. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, that I get. That the Catherine the Great review, I don't understand. But anyway.
Well, it says it's great right in the title.
No,
people
I'm not going to make
love Russian history, Gretchen. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the things that happened, not super recently now, but there was another, I don't know if it was like a discovery or where it really came from, but where people were just given access to a whole bunch of new archival material about the Tudor reign. And so there's actually been a few new books on Anne Boleyn that have been released in the last couple of years. And kind of actually what I might want to do is read this one and read another one that also came out, again, using the same new archival material. Just to see how, because so little survives, right? Because not only was this a long time ago, but also because Anne Boleyn is eventually, repudiated, beheaded. A lot of things related to her are destroyed, like right after she's killed. So a lot of it is interpretation, and one of the things that I love about history is how people interpret it, right? And coming from their different viewpoints and what they have to say. But I started with this one because John Guy in particular is an incredibly well-renowned British historian, as is Julia Fox, and they partnered on writing this book, which I thought would be really interesting. And I knew from having read other books by John Guy that the level of historical research and it's extremely well done. I wasn't sure. So one of the things that I've been having a problem with in my reading is that have been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I do think that has negatively impacted a certain way in how I've been engaging with my nonfiction, which I usually read on audio, because a podcast is produced to have a certain level of storytelling. There can be music, there can be, sound effects, whatever it is. And I was having this issue where I was listening to nonfiction podcasts, and then I was going back to nonfiction books, and I was like getting bored a little bit more easily because they're not like done in the same way. And so I kind of went into this one knowing that there was going to be a droll British narrator who was going to tell me in 1498 Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII. Like, I knew that this was not going. I've read other John Guy books. Like, I knew how this was going to be written, and it was going to be in the most boring standard of general nonfiction. And I did that for a purpose, because I was like, can I just like completely shake my brain out of like this funk? And in this case, I've actually really been enjoying it. I don't know if it's the British narrator. I don't know if it's the fact that I haven't done a lot on this topic recently, which is something that I really love. Like, I've seen Six the Musical, which is a musical about Henry VIII and his wife, like multiple times. I love that musical. But also, I really like how I feel like we've really changed our views on Anne Boleyn. If you go back to like The Tudors, which was a show on Showtime, and Natalie Dormer plays Anne Boleyn there, she's very often shown to be very conniving, and she certainly did have a certain amount of power playing in her. But I think what I've really enjoyed about this book is that it talks way more about what she accomplished as queen which we almost never talk about because it's all about how she waited so long. And then there's a whole, like, she causes the schism in the English church because she wants him to give up Catherine of Aragon and marry her. And, you know, she's famously, there's a famous movie called Anne of a Thousand Days because she waits to marry Henry for 7 to 9 years. I can't remember. It's that range. And then she's only queen for 1,000 days before she is ultimately beheaded. And again, that's like a timeline that a lot of people really don't pay attention to, that there's a lot of stuff she's doing in those 7 years that often get truncated into Henry breaks with the church, Henry's doing this in Rome, Henry's trying to do this, and she's just like waiting. And so I've just been enjoying hearing a little bit more about her and how she wanted to stand up for her religious ideals. There's a lot made about her being a Lutheran, aka wanting to completely break with the Church of Rome. And actually, if you look at her writing and what she was doing, she was actually something called a Lefebvrist, which was she was a practicing Catholic, but she wanted to reform the Catholic Church, not break from it. So yeah, it's just been really, I feel like with this book, I've been getting a fresh perspective. I've been learning some new things, even though I've read a lot about Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII and all of his wives. Mostly Anne Boleyn because she's my favorite because I think that she has the most complex story. And again, if we're thinking about how people interpret history, her history, depending on how much you hate women or how much you like hate powerful women, gets retold a very different way. And I will never forgive the Showtime series for trying to pretend that Jane Seymour was his like favorite wife. Because if you look at the lengths that Henry went to to marry Anne, listen, I think dude flew too close to the sun and decided he was never gonna do that again after he murdered her. So that's my opinion. So I've just been, and I wanted to bring this to the reading roundtable, not necessarily to talk about the book so much as just like what I've been trying to do to shake myself out of the funk. And I really wasn't sure if I was going to even finish this book. But it really has been really, really nice to totally leave anything that I've been reading a lot of recently. To feel that like nostalgic sense of like something that I really used to love, while also learning new things about it. So I've really been enjoying it. And maybe I will, like I said, read this one. And there's another book that recently, actually, this one came out in 2023, I think. And then there's another one that came out in 2024, again, doing some more work on Anne. Little bit of a different angle, but using, again, some of that new archival material that they have access to, that I may read and compare, because that's really interesting. And now I just need Lucy Worsley, aka the Queen of British Historical Royalty Docs, to give me my new Anne Boleyn documentary, which may be released in the UK, and I just have to find it illegally. So if anyone knows, tell me about it in the comments. Thanks, guys. And that's my book.
With euphemism. Don't get in trouble for doing illegal things.
Yes, no, like don't. I mean, maybe it's on the BBC player and I just don't have, or it's on a streaming service I don't have, because there are 17 million of them now.
It's true.
And I can't afford them all. So.
I'm glad that you're enjoying it, even though I would definitely never read this book ever, but I'm glad that you like it. So that's what I'm here for. And I'm happy for you.
I could do a podcast, but not like reading it with my attention span.
Yeah.
I could,
yeah, and this
but I
one
wouldn't.
is like 16, 17 hours.
Okay, that's doing a little too much, but I'd consider.
For me, considering that I've done 24 to 48 hour nonfiction.
The new Joe Hill book came out this week, and that's a 24-hour audiobook. It's like this thick.
He called it a doorstop, and He's had some heavy books thus far, calling it that is.
Yeah.
Not messing around.
Yeah, and that's why I thought, like, that's why I really thought, even when I started, I mean, obviously I got it from the library, y'all. This is what libraries are for,
Yeah.
I didn't spend money on this, right? But I wanted to give it a chance to try it, to try to, again, not simply for this book, like for the sake of this book, but for the sake of me, like trying to get re-engaged in reading through any angle, right? Like just trying to like do that. That's what your library is for. And yeah, I didn't even think, maybe I was like, I'll just try it, and if I don't finish it, I don't finish it and I move on to something else. But it's been weirdly flying by, and I do think it is because it's well researched, but it's also, like I said, focusing on things that I don't think some books focus on. So even when it goes through like, and in this ledger we found an entry for this, and then there was an entry for that, like they're contextualizing in a way that's interesting, and it's like we don't really think about this in terms of Anne Boleyn, so I'm like willing to sit through it. I realize this is wildly niche, but I'm into it. I've been consistently reading like at least 30 minutes for like the past 2 weeks, give or take a day, which is more than I've done in many months. So I'm a ticket.
Good. All right. Des, it is your turn. What would you like to tell us about?
So I read this book called The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi, I think is how you say it.
I love her.
That's good. I love that for you.
Is this new?
Happened.
Yeah, well, it came out in 2023.
Oh, okay. Is it an adult book?
Yeah.
Oh my God, guys, I'm so excited. I didn't realize she was doing adult stuff. I read all of her YA stuff when it came out, and it was so good. And I was like, I'm really worried that she's not going to get as much love as she should because her writing is so lyrical. I was like, I think it's too lyrical for YA.
It's very pretty, which is what I was gonna get into, is how pretty her writing is, which is why I stuck with the story. Which it's not a bad story. It's not. I've never read any of her YA stuff. I literally found this on accident and was like, oh, this sounds interesting, so I'm gonna read it. And what it's about, it's a gothic, they say it's a fantasy, but it feels kind of magical realism, but I can see how it's like a gothic fantasy. It is about a man who believes in fairy tales, and he marries this woman named Indigo, and he's like the scholar of myths, and she's like this heiress to a fortune, and they end up becoming a couple, and in exchange for her being with him, he's not allowed to ask anything about her past. And then what you find out is her aunt is dying, so she has to go home to kind of take care of things with her aunt. And then the bridegroom, which is what he's called the whole book, you never actually find out his name. He is trying to figure out the secrets that she's hiding from him and figure out like what happened to this girl who was her best friend named Azur. And so it flips back and forth between his point of view and Azur's point of view, and you kind of learn the story of Indigo and Azur, and then him kind of uncovering these secrets and what Indigo is willing to do to protect her secrets. So it's not really horror per se, but you could say it's like suspense. Because the twist at the end, I actually didn't expect. That surprised me, which is hard to do. So kudos for that. And again, her writing is very, very pretty. So if you like the more lyrical writing, that's going to be enjoyable. I didn't really have any complaints about it. Some of the pacing was probably a little like, what is happening? And there was a lot of smut, which I didn't expect, but isn't really my thing. Ironic, I know, for those who know what I do as a side hustle. Not prostitution, I swear. So, anyways, there was a lot of like underlying like sexual connotations. It's I would consider it LGBT because it's implied that Indigo and Azure had some sort of romantic undertones to their relationship, which is not a spoiler. You know that the whole time, I promise. And there's different things that happen. I don't want to give too much away, but the reason I say there's magical realism in it is because they are part of this, and this is also known the whole time. They're essentially obsessed with turning into fae, and there's this place called the Other World where they're trying to go that will accept them and make them fae. So basically, they make the house come to life. There's this other world that's alive. So they say it's fantasy, but it feels more magical realism to me. But I feel like it could go either way. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I liked it. I didn't give it 5 stars just because some of it I was like, okay, I don't know why that was necessary, but like, okay. But I gave it 4 stars, which is pretty good for me. So yeah, it was enjoyable. You might like it, Gretchen, even though it's technically magical realism.
When you originally said that, I was like, nope, not for me. But now you've told me it's for Shawnee, and I'm like, well, never mind. Maybe I was wrong.
It's not like that oppressing, like, ick magical realism. Like, the Bog Girl or the Bog Wife, hated that. Was not the vibe. Michaela's laughing at me because I bitched about that book to her. So that book is marketed as horror. It's not. First of all, it's magical realism, and it's fucking weird. It feels like a fever dream. It's not the vibe. I only finished it because I wanted to know what the fuck was happening, and it was stupid and didn't make any sense. So, that's magical realism to me. This made sense. I understood what was happening here, but there were parts of it that I was like, this feels like a fever dream, and I don't understand what is happening. But I think that was intentional because of like the mental health things going on as well. So it made sense, but it was feverish. Not as bad as The Bog Wife. I don't recommend that book. I know it's on Michaela's TBR. Don't do it.
I'm gonna do it. I already have plans for it.
I hated it.
I had to look this up because I couldn't remember the name. So the book that I read by her, and I actually reviewed on this channel, like almost 8 years ago, is The Star-Touched Queen by Rashani, and I called it because I have my review up, one of the prettiest things that I read in 2016. And so I totally get like the Star-Touched Queen was like verging on it had elements of like folklore and stuff like that, and so like it's technically fantasy, but I can understand like those extra elements of like just like magical.
I would probably be into that one. I think I own The Gilded Wolves by her, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever ended up reading that one, but I own Star Touched, and there was a follow-up about that main character's sister that I own.
Neat.
So yeah, I'm excited to hear that she is still publishing and she's publishing adult. We actually did a reading roundtable where one of the themes was a lot of these YA authors that are transitioning into adult and adult with smut, adult romance.
The smut was not it.
It is the trajectory of a lot of that sphere of YA fantasy, so that makes sense to me. I hope it feels more natural to them.
It definitely feels like part of it is probably growing with their readership, right? Like the people who were reading those books as teens and young adults are now firmly in their 30s and older, so it makes sense for authors to, if they want to keep writing for the same reader base, to do that. I also spoke with some authors when we did an author event at the bookstore that I worked at who were like new authors in the YA sphere, because they were talking about some of the authors that they were writing with who were doing the same sort of shift. And I was like, is it like a money thing? And they said that it might also be a publisher thing, because a lot of times publishers will be like, if you publish with like Hachette will then say, I also get any rights to your next YA book because you've already written a YA book. So if they want to go to a different publisher, they can't write a YA book. They have to write an adult book. So
and you have to assume YA's just oversaturated.
Well,
after they cannot keep up at the rate that it was.
Yeah, I as someone who worked in a bookstore, I will say that there are way fewer, like, popular YA books than when we were like reading them, if that makes sense. Like I feel like there's definitely still things being published there that definitely still see eyes, but it feels like, at least at this current moment, and maybe it's being overshadowed because of TikTok, but the contemporary romance space, the dark romance space, and the fantasy romance spaces are the ones that are getting like banger after banger after banger when it comes to like popularity being purchased now. I don't know. It might, again, TikTok is a confounding variable because we did not have that when we were reading these books. So
no, but I mean, there was also the immense power of YA BookTube,
right, which was very,
which you could almost tell was starting to eat itself, because you would end up with like all of the popular YouTubers who wanted to have these relationships with publishers, and you could follow like 14 of them. And when the new Penguin Random House book came out, all 14 of them would be talking about the same book. And it was very, I mean, I much more love reviewing in the romance space because the immediacy principle has gone down, in which, like, if I wasn't reviewing the arc of the new YA book like 2 weeks in advance, no one was going to watch that video. Whereas, like, I can put out a romance review and people go and they look for them when they read it, not like psychotically like grasping for the next
new thing,
like new thing. So I'm a big fan of that. Not that it was an intentional review move for our channel, it was what I transitioned into reading, but as someone who was reviewing YA on BookTube at that time, that community just started to feel a little vicious. But it could not sustain that level of like repetition.
Especially because so much of the money they're relying on is like tied to those major publishing houses and their big flagships and everything. It's
true. And now you're facing the same issue with like contemporary and dark and romanticities. It's oversaturated because so many people are putting out the same thing because the same formula works, which is why I've kind of like, I love romantic fantasy, like that's my thing, but I've shifted away from it into the more like literary fantasy or the horror because like it's the same thing.
The feeling like dystopia was 10 years ago, where you're like,
it's
just
like
another
dystopia
one.
was 10 years ago. Which was I loved dystopian until it became oversaturated. I was like, okay, I need something else. So I do still love romantasy. I don't want to sound like I don't love romantasy, but I also can see like how it gets so oversaturated because of the trends, and then it's like, well, I don't want to read that anymore because it's the same thing,
just plot, a different characters. Yeah.
So yeah, so this was a refreshing read for me actually, because it was like the literary fantasy side, I guess, if we're gonna claim it falls into fantasy. So that was nice. Like the romance wasn't like the full thing, but like it was there, but not like overbearing. The only reason there was so much like sexual undertones is like things that Indigo believed they had to do. It was a whole thing. You'll understand if you read it. I'm not going to spoil it, but like it wasn't a romantic sexual type of thing. It was like a ritual sexual type of thing. And I was like, this is a little weird, but okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So very like Southern Gothic-esque, I'd say. But yeah, Gretchen, you might not hate it.
You know what? At this point, I don't know what I can read and what I can't read. So why not? Let's just jump off the deep end, except for into horror. I'm not.
No, this isn't. I wouldn't call this horror.
No. I'm just, in case Michaela hears me say this and is like, okay, so now Gretchen reads horror. No, you got sour cherry out of me.
At what point do I ever do that? Usually what I do is say, hey, I know you don't like horror. This one's not that bad. Will you please read it with me? I like very diligently try to pick ones that I know aren't going to like traumatize you.
You negotiate, you calculate.
Yeah.
You wait for your chance.
So that in this book is only 292 pages, so it's like,
oh, that's nice.
It's quick.
Yeah. I mean, Michaela was like, we should read that Chuck Tingle book because I hear it's more like mental horror than body horror. And
They're
the
pretty
creepiest
short.
thing in it was a diseased sheep. So you never know.
Listen, I without me pre-reading every single one of them so that I can say definitively, I do my best. I do my best.
No, it's good. No, it's good. It's good that, I mean, that's the entire reason this channel exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is to
It'll
read.
never be good enough, but it's good.
No, but I mean, I talk about this all the time. Like, the only reason I was able to play the video game Until Dawn is because Michaela had played it enough times, and as I played it, she was behind me going, jump scare. But right before it happened, I am a child.
That makes it sound like I went, boo.
I mean, if I was already scared, then I couldn't be scared by the Wendigo.
Exactly. And then you were like, oh, this is fine. There's a monster.
Anyway.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Taylor, you want to talk about your book?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we got off track.
I am sympathetic, Gretchen, to your struggle of like actually sitting down and reading things, and the momentum of an audiobook can kind of help out. Like, this past year, I feel like the only novels I've been consistently getting through are my historical fiction Patrick O'Brien, Aubrey and Maturin book series. I just finished book 12 of 21, and like, they all bleed into the next one so easily that it's like I have the next one on hold when I'm still reading it, and just like, they continue to be rich, compelling stories, extensively researched, surprisingly funny. That's not what I'm here to talk about. This is actually... so what I do have is Black Flame by Gretchen Felker Martin. It is a short horror novel from a few months ago. And this is like the first physical book I've made like actual progress in. Like, I'm halfway through a 200-page book, admittedly, having just started it yesterday. But I find it really compelling as a horror novel. The conceit is basically that the protagonist is a film, like, archivist, restorer, technician sort of deal, and her company that has been really suffering because they took on a film project for the Klan, have been really struggling to get work. And it's, that is an initial complicated thing, but the thing they get to kind of redeem themselves and pay the bills is, like, a believed lost German film from the 1930s that is both very transgressive sexually and just, like, it is made up of, like, Jews and other minorities, the queer community, obviously, so that, like, immediately the creator was, like, snatched up and this film lost, but this has, like, the main character going through the tapes, like, this is the theatrical cut, but then looking at the photo negatives starts finding that, like, the castle set, for example, is an actual castle, and things like that, and this kind of horror emerging both of, like, this very cursed, like, footage that is then kind of seeping into her psychology, but it's just, like, dealing with closeted homosexuality in, like, the 90s and New York, and it's a really compelling, dirty, awful, wretched experience to read, and it's just been captivating. And, like, I studied archivy, not with, like, film stuff, but, like, it's giving all the stuff that I remember with, like, the old acetate films going up in flames, and it's such a compelling intersection of, like, technology, history, and subculture. Gretchen Felker Martin, I've read Manhunt by her first novel, and heard various things about Cuckoo, her second, and, like, she is always winding up hotly debated in social spaces for being just, like, as an individual and an artist, like, not afraid to say, like, controversial, edgy, or just, like, have horrible things to experience. And I guess I'm just, like, I'm really vibing with this one. I think it's done well and in interesting ways. I think, at least from halfway through, that's all I can say about it, with or without spoilers. But it's been an excellent read.
I have not read that one yet. I had picked it
Okay.
up. In theory, I've been grabbing some of the books that I think I mentioned that I think might be part of this year's Goodreads Choice Awards for Horror. And I think Gretchen Felker-Martin has enough of, like, a name in this space that it's possible, although she's, I think, maybe a bit more extreme than Goodreads usually goes for their horror picks. They usually pick things that sort of, they're horror, but they're more able to be picked up by people who maybe aren't horror people. If that
Yeah,
makes
this
sense.
is not what I would say is commonly accessible.
Yeah.
This is gonna upset a lot of people who encounter it accidentally, I imagine. But they can be wrong, and I'm okay with that.
It's true. I'm excited. I will most likely read it at some point this year. Just not yet. I've been trying so desperately to read all of these horror books from last year, and as of late, that's not been going super great for me. Yeah. My turn?
Your turn.
My turn. So I am going to talk about The Starving Saints, which is a new horror release. I think it came out in August, and I read it last month.
Is August one of the weirdest months for a horror book?
No, a lot of them come out in August because then you pick them up during spooky season in September and fall.
That's fair.
So it's like preempting. Like if it came out in October, it's kind of past the point when a lot of people are grabbing new books for that season. I think a lot of times people are then looking more towards like their cozy holiday stuff at that point. So no, yeah, August is a big month for horror, and September too. There's a lot that come out then. Okay. So, this is a medieval horror book. It is set in a castle which is under siege, and they are days away from running out of food. They have not been able to get any sort of help from outside because their castle is surrounded. There's sort of three main figures, all women, at the center of this. One is I guess the castle would consider her a witch. She used to be a nun, but when their water was tainted, she was able, through some sort of what they would consider alchemy, clean the water. So they viewed it as a miracle, but it was against sort of the views of the nunnery. So she got kicked out from being a nun. It was just chemistry, actually, that she did. So we know that it was science, but like to the views of the people there, she's a witch. And the king has come to her and said, you need to solve our food problem, which is very different from cleaning like algae and stuff out of water. Conjuring food from nothing is impossible. Like, she doesn't really have that ability. There is a fantasy element. She is sort of followed by these like dark spirit creatures. They seem like shadow creatures that sort of follow her around. So there is an element of magic, but what she did to the water clearly wasn't magic. So she's desperately trying to do that. She's been failing at this task, so then the king goes to the captain of his guard, which is a woman, and says, you need to go force her to do this magic. Like, she's clearly not focusing enough. So now the guards woman is always watching her over her back, trying to force her into doing this thing. And then the third is a woman who's a servant in the castle, although you learn a bit about her and find out that she used to be like a noble, or the child of a noble, who was murdered by the captain of the guards woman for some reason or other, and that servant wants to get back at the captain of the guard. There's a question on whether or not the captain of the guard seduced her back then, or if they actually had like a meaningful relationship that was then tarnished by her having to kill the father in that case. So there's some like toxic ex things going on there. And while all
We've
of
all
that's
been there.
yeah, while all of that has been happening, suddenly these figures show up, and they are the saints of the nunnery that they follow. There's a couple of them. There's like a group of saints that they all worship, and they're here, and they come with food, and they're throwing feasts day in and day out, and you come to find out that they are perhaps not actually the saints, but creatures that have taken on the faces of the saints to enter the castle, and that there perhaps is not new food that wasn't there before, but maybe some magic is going on to make something that isn't food look like food. And everybody's reveling and eating it, so I'm not going to spoil everything. It is a horror book. So
It sounds awesome, actually.
I regret not buying it when it was on sale on Kindle for $1.99.
yeah, it's
I regret not buying it.
what was really funny was that I had just bought the audiobook before that happened. Like literally like the day before, and then it went on sale, and I was like, son of a... But I think, what did I ended up rating it? It has been about a month. It's 3.5 stars from me, which is like above average. It's slightly above average. I had a couple of questions with some of the pacing things, but like the atmosphere was great, and sort of the weaving of these three women and the way that their paths overline or crossover, and that is very interesting. So yes, I had a fun time. The ending was just very fast. It was like really, really slow for most of the book, like building, and then everything happening all at once at the end, which I think is like a common thing, but I would have liked maybe a slightly different pace, personally. But yes, I do recommend it if you are interested in it, and that is one that I feel like may end up on the awards for this year as well, because it's like there's definitely some horror stuff, but it's like mostly like historical fiction, like realistic type things going on in this castle. As long as you maybe ignore the fae like creatures that show up quite late into the book.
The food that is not food.
Yeah.
And
It's
I'm
like
creeped out imagining what it is.
It's obliquely described for the most part. Like it's not like gore porn at the end. Like I wouldn't say that. Like you definitely go, "Oh no," but it's not like in your face about it. And like spending paragraphs and paragraphs describing it. It's not doing that. So.
Watching Gretchen's face while you were talking about that book, that was hilarious. She's just like...
It's not... Yeah, it's not for Gretchen. It's okay. She doesn't need to read it.
No. I mean, I'm constantly impressed by Michaela's ability to read these and then also be able to very intelligently pick out the themes and the larger message, because she starts talking about them and I'm like, hey. So it's a skill that Michaela has that I'm constantly impressed by, but also, hey.
Listen, it's fine. It's not for everyone, and I completely understand that. Like I'm never gonna like force people to read things that are gonna traumatize them. That's not what I'm here for. I greatly enjoy horror. It's one of my favorite things. It's fine. It's cool. It's one of the best ways to do it.
I'm not gonna inflict my book on Anne Boleyn on the rest of you.
Exactly. Yeah. So
That
you can tell me about it and I'll listen.
Yeah. I'll listen to you talk about it all day, because it's just not happening. My brain doesn't want to do it. I get it.
I like knowing the tea, but I don't have the attention span for nonfiction.
Yeah.
I'd listen to the audiobook.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going through I have a handbag book, which just comes out in, like, waiting rooms.
Yeah.
And it's a travel log by the first woman to reach the Tibetan capital of Lhasa. And this is during the British, like, cordoning off of the country. So she has to infiltrate it in disguise and, like,
Nice.
traveling at night. And she's just, like, having spent decades, like, studying Buddhism and the language and things like that. And that is a fascinating travelogue. But Anne Boleyn's fine, too.
Thanks. So we would like to thank Taylor and Dez, who just keep coming back, and we are so thrilled. Even if that's Taylor has just kept coming back for like 10 years, and that's honestly confusing too. So
You don't make me work very hard.
It's true.
But one of the reasons that this is so fun is because everybody always brings something a little bit different. And in having these types of discussions too, you can not only learn about new things, but maybe be convinced to read something else. Like, Des gave an elevator pitch and I said I wouldn't read that. And then Des explained it and I said I would read that. And that happens sometimes when you learn about books as well. And that's why we love doing this with our friends, especially when it's unthemed chaos, and anything can happen. In terms of what's coming up on the channel for future Betwixt content, as we mentioned, I think mostly in our October video, but we usually try to have one reading roundtable a month, and our banned books reading roundtable was supposed to be in September. That didn't happen, so it got pushed. So we did 2 reading roundtables in the month of October. We hope to go back to our regularly planned schedule, which is to do 1 review and 1 reading roundtable for Betwixt content in November. In November, we hope to finally have our review of Reservoir Bitches done. We've been talking about the fact that we need to read this book for a while, and Michaela's ready to go. And I'm not, because I'm struggling. But this is our pick for translated fiction for this year. And it looks really amazing. It's not the book's fault at all. I'm just not really in control of my own brain currently. The other reading roundtable that we will be doing in November, this one will be themed and it will be on Indigenous fiction. So that is a very broad category. People might bring adult, they might bring children's, they might bring sci-fi, fantasy, like whatever. Thankfully, there is an ever expanding category of things that could be called Indigenous fiction, which we would like to support in the month of November, because thanks America. And so we'd rather be supporting Indigenous lives than celebrating the myth of Thanksgiving. So we will be here doing that. I certainly don't know what I'm reading for that yet. So in order for both of us to find out what I'm reading, you'll have to be there. So we will see you hopefully for that review and definitely that reading roundtable as we get really close to the end of the year here and closing out hopefully our buddy reading challenge. So thank you again to Des and Taylor for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!